Hello. We have some people coming in now. Welcome to our weekly, not quite weekly, we did miss, I think, a couple of weeks. Things have been very hectic. Updates and Q&A about what's been going on in the Dáil and in politics generally. As this week has been hectic. We've been raising issues about the state failing children with additional needs. Been raising stuff about data centres and the expansion of data centres, more and more gas, energy security stuff linked to that, investment in more LNGs. But the main thing I want to focus on, and the main focus this week, has obviously been the absolute horror that has been inflicted on the people of Gaza, on the Palestinian people. I'm sure people can't avoid it in their social media feeds, on the radio, on the TV. Just, a genocidal assault by Israel on Gaza, a total siege, no food, no water, no medicine, no fuel, no electricity, bombardment from the air, where now, the northern half of Gaza, where more than 1 million people lived, has basically been bombed to bits. There's almost nowhere left for people to live. 1 million people compelled to move south. Forcible displacement. This is a new Nakba, a new catastrophe, a new mass ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And then a ground invasion, including tanks surrounding hospitals. You have to be blind not to see what's happening as a genocide, as a series of war crimes, crimes against humanity. They are bombing hospitals, they're bombing ambulances, they're bombing convoys of refugees, they're bombing refugee camps, they're bombing fisher boats. What is happening is absolutely horrendous. And we should be clear, it's happening in the full view of the world and with the support of the most powerful states in the world. Joe Biden, genocide Joe in the US, giving the green light for this genocide. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, giving a green light for it. British government very much giving a green light for it. And most countries in the European Union doing likewise. So this week in the Dáil, we had an attempt by People for Profit and the opposition. It's People for Profit who first raised the idea to say that the government must take action. So the Irish government, compared to many European governments, is more critical, is saying more critical things about what Israel is doing, because they have a public and an electorate which is overwhelmingly on the sides of the Palestinian people. So this week, Simon Harris, for example, said Israel is conducting a war on children, and that's accurate. Almost 5,000 children have now been killed. People have probably seen the pictures of babies taken out of incubators because the fuel is gone, no electricity for the hospital. We're just horrendous stuff. But the question is, are they going to do anything about it, or are they just going to have fine words? So it was People for Profit who put forward the idea that we need to expel the Israeli ambassador, we need to have meaningful economic sanctions on Israel, and we need to refer Israel to the International Criminal Court for its crimes in Gaza, as has been done in relation to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And this week, then, there were motions from Sinn Féin and the Social Democrats raising those issues. And this was an opportunity for the Irish state to actually do things. Unfortunately, people probably saw the results of the votes last night. A majority voted against taking any action, against expelling the ambassador. It was just a propaganda machine. People may have seen her horrendous article in the Irish Times the other day, just dehumanising Palestinians, against referring Israel to the International Criminal Court, against economic sanctions. Basically, the alliance that defeated it was the government, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Green Party, with the exception of Nessa Horrigan, and an array of right-wing independents. Michael Collins, one of the two Healy raised, they voted on both sides, Matty McGrath, Richard Donoghue, Cathal Berry, Dennis Naughton, people like that. Really shameful, and going against, I think, very clearly the will of the people. We received here I mean, well more than 10,000 emails every day, thousands of emails coming in, overwhelmingly saying vote to expel the Israeli ambassador. Outside the Dáil last night was the biggest protest for a midweek protest outside the Dáil I've seen in a very, very long time. 5,000 people, very powerful display. And then, unfortunately, they went along not with what people want here, not with justice, not with peace, but instead went along with no action, basically to avoid rocking the boat with the US. That's the truth. Ellie there says your view is not the view of the people. I don't think that's correct on this issue anyway. I presume there'll be opinion polls at the weekend. I mean, even in America, where Zionist propaganda is very strong, a big majority of the population are in favour of a ceasefire. I believe a majority of people in Ireland very clearly are opposed to Israeli genocide, opposed to ethnic cleansing, opposed to apartheid, and in favour of taking action. All the international companies would leave if you expelled her. So we're going to turn a blind eye to genocide. The Irish government's not going to do anything about it because you tell us on TikTok that all the companies will leave because we expel the Israeli ambassador. I don't agree. Someone asked a question on Instagram. Do you think Varadkar felt and acted under pressure yesterday? I think the government is under pressure. They are making more and more critical comments about Israel. It's not good enough. It's not good enough just to have words. You have to have action. But it does mean the pressure is telling. And I think, there's a danger that people could be demoralised after last night, thinking we did everything and still they didn't listen to us. And that's understandable. It reveals that we don't live in a true democracy, that the power of big business, the power of the big imperialist powers like the US, means that people don't just purely reflect the views of the people. But we have to say that pressure is working. It's pushing the government into a more critical stance than they otherwise would be. Give you the example, even 4 weeks ago, we had a motion to do the same things that were voted on last night: refer Israel to the International Criminal Court, sanctions, expel the Israeli ambassador. 7 TDs, only 7 TDs supported that motion. The People for Profit Solidarity TDs, Thomas Pringle and Joan Collins. Whereas last night, 55 TDs voted for a resolution doing that. So it's not enough, but we are putting them under pressure. We saw in Britain the Tory Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, was sacked. That's under pressure of the movement, as well as divisions within the Tory party. Macron, who was previously given a real green light to Israel for their attack, has been forced to come out to call for a ceasefire. So pressure is beginning to tell, but we have to go further. We have to mobilise more people. And the next thing that's really important is Saturday is a national demonstration. This is the big one. 1 o'clock at Parnell Square. Organisations, there's going to be buses from across the country coming up. So do whatever you can to be there and spread the word about that this is the one to be there. Just chatting the different. Is there an Israeli lobby like AIPAC? I think so you say it in Ireland. There isn't, thankfully. There are various Zionist propagandists, but they don't have the kind of influence like I think you said AIPAC, which is a very powerful lobby group in favour of Israel in the US. Martina said we don't want to do anything to jeopardise the release of Irish citizens over there right now. But I would say to you that it's clear that they were delayed in being released as punishment for Ireland speaking out in terms of the ceasefire. Having these great diplomatic relations didn't seem to work. We have a very small number of them out. I think we have to do the right thing. The best thing that can happen for everyone who's in Gaza, including the hostages in Gaza, is that the bombardment stops. And Ireland joining in all the countries across the world who are breaking diplomatic relations with Israel, like South Africa, Bolivia, Colombia, Chile, other countries as well. Ireland, as a European country doing that, would have a big impact. It's being raised by ministers within the Spanish government that the Spanish state should do that. In Belgium, it's being raised. So it could create a domino effect of isolating Israel and having an impact. We're not saying just expelling the ambassador, that'll be the end of the war. No, but it's about doing everything that you possibly can and doing everything that you possibly can as a state to do that. Someone says Solar Man said no president I know of has been before the ICC. But I give you the example, and the real double standards of the Irish state. The Irish state referred Putin to the ICC, and an arrest warrant has been issued by the ICC for Putin. So the same should happen in terms of Netanyahu. Soy boy. I'm not even that fond of soy milk. Hostages, Ellie says. Still silence from you. No silence from me. I'd say free the hostages, which is free the hostages being held in Gaza and free the thousands and thousands of Palestinian hostages being held in Israeli jails at the moment. Palestinian political prisoners, hundreds of them children. Are you talking about them? Thousands of them in what's called administrative detention, which means that it's just like an internment, no charge or trial, being held in jail, some of them facing torture. How many are expected to be there Saturday? I don't know. I think there would be tens of thousands. The question is just how many tens of thousands. I'm an Irishman. I am an Irishman. Hello, Pluto, with your Irish flag. And Irish people, thankfully, historically, have always stood in solidarity with oppressed peoples around the world because we know what it's like to be colonised. We know what it's like to struggle against British imperialism. And therefore, I think most Irish people understand the need to stand in solidarity with the Palestinians and others facing oppression. Just looking through the comments. Can I speak Irish a bit? I'd like to get better. Do I not condemn any of the Hamas attacks, or is this one-sided? See, I think it's clear now what the purpose of all this condemnation of Hamas after October 7th was about. It was about lining up the current situation to say that history begins on the 7th of October and Israel now has a right to defend itself, which means, like, what a right of an apartheid state to defend itself means bombing hospitals, means bombing refugee convoys, means bombing fishing boats, means trying to starve a population of more than 2 million people. That's what that looks like. So look, I didn't agree with what happened on October 7th. Obviously, I'm a socialist. I don't agree. I have fundamental differences with Hamas. But the cause of the violence, the cause of the suffering, it didn't start on October 7th, isn't caused by Hamas. The root problem here is the occupation and the apartheid nature of the Israeli state. Israel is not an apartheid state. 20% of the population is Arabic. Ellie there, shilling for Israel in the comments. Ellie, I presume you know that if you're living in the West Bank, in occupied territory, you're treated in a separate court process. You get on different buses. You drive on different roads. If you're Palestinian within the Israeli state, on paper, you have formal rights, but in practice, you suffer from severe discrimination. You get less in terms of public services in the towns that you're in. Your town may not be recognised, may be de-recognised. And then obviously if you're in the West Bank, your town might be bulldozed. A bunch of right-wing Israeli settlers may come in and basically try and drive you out of your land, all backed up by the Israeli state and the Israeli army. That's not my opinion. That's the opinion of Amnesty International. That's the opinion of Human Rights Watch. How do we call for a revote? Shell asks. Well, you can't, within a certain time frame, you can't have the same motion twice in the Dáil. But we have private members' time next week. We have time. We're going to put another motion. We're just fine-tuning it at the moment about Palestine next week, which will be debated on Wednesday and voted on Wednesday night. Did you hear about the gas field in Palestine? I did, precisely. And that's worth people checking out. Even Ethiopian Jews are facing discrimination. That's correct. Dub Ireland says no other flag should fly in Ireland. What do you mean? Like, you're going to ban them? You're probably protesting for free speech as well, which I agree with, but I'm not sure how you're going to stop people flying flags in Ireland other than the tricolour. Have I ever been there? I have, yeah. I've been in Israel, so I spent a week in an Israeli jail because I tried to break the blockade of Gaza, and I was surrounded by Israeli warships, because we were trying to be able to bring humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza, and for that our ship was almost like sunk by the Israeli military, boarded by all these heavily armed Israeli military people with big guns pointed at us. Spent a week in Israeli prison, and I've also visited Gaza, and I've seen the truth about what's facing the people of Gaza even before this happened. I was in hospitals where they were running out of surgical gloves, basic medical equipment. I met daughter of Palestinian political prisoners. I was in hospitals where they were running out of surgical gloves, basic medical equipment. I met daughter of Palestinian political prisoners. The earlier that can come. I agree, we put pressure on the US. I think Iraq War 2003, what's your opinion on it? Definitely against it. I think all those of us I marched against it on 15th of February 2003. Tens of millions of people around the world, 100,000 people in Ireland. Will Ireland take the lead in forcing the hands of the ICC? At the moment it's refusing to. The Irish government is refusing to. I'm working with left-wing public representatives from across Europe and the world, actually, to try and to bring a different way to bring Israel before the International Criminal Court. But the best and most effective way and the quickest way is for a state to do it. Maybe I'll leave it on this with Miss E's question, which is a good question. Livid and sickened over last night, yeah, definitely, like a lot of people. And what can we, the average citizens, do to help out? I think more of what people like you are already doing. More mobilisation, more emails, more pressure from below. Get involved in the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign or whatever local campaign exists near you. Mobilise people for spread the word for this Saturday's protest. You know about it. Lots of your friends may not know about it. 1 p.m. at the Garden of Remembrance, and get as many people there as possible. Okay, I have to run to do other work, I'm afraid. I will be back next week. Hopefully I see a lot of you on Saturday at the protest. Spread the word. Thanks a lot.